What is up, Everyday Athlete podcast listeners? Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Fireside Chat. I'm being joined by Ivan Casillas in a little bit. I met Ivan through Dalia, who is the founder of, or one of the co-founders of Corremos Sacramento. And she connected Ivan and I had the opportunity to interview him for a How It All Started feature on our website. And since that time, have loved following his journey. We have a lot of stuff in common, and so I can't wait to talk about that stuff. Before I bring him on, just a couple of reminders and notes. One, we have a Find Your Form giveaway going on right now. It's going to be every Friday. It's for a pair of Form Smart Swim goggles plus a 1-year subscription. Check it out on Instagram, on Threads, on Facebook. Super easy to enter. All you have to do is say you found my picture. In the picture there, follow Form Swim, follow Run, Try, Bike, and you're in, plus other ways to get additional entries. One of those ways is by being an Everyday Athlete Clubhouse member, which would net you an extra entry. And to do that, all you have to do is go to runtrymag.com, hover over shop, and click on the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse link. The benefits start the moment you join. Trust me when I tell you that. You'll get a welcome box within a week, and then from there, you can use all the discount codes that we have with marketing and advertising partners. And lastly, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and if you're on Spotify or YouTube, comment, because it really does help us with the algorithm. But I will tell you this, when I see your comments on Spotify and YouTube, it brings great joy to my heart. I love seeing them. I love interacting with our listeners and the viewers. And honestly, if you comment on Instagram or any of our social platforms, the responses you're getting are from me. They are not some chatbot that has been built to reply to you. They are literally from me. So comment, let's have a conversation and let's engage, which is what we're going to do with Ivan right now. So let's bring him onto the show. My guy, how are you?
Hey, Jason, I'm good. And yourself?
I am fantastic. Dude, I was looking at one of the last messages I sent you when I sent you the link to the studio, and it literally just said something to the effect of, your smile makes the world brighter or something like that. Like, dude, like you just make, every time I see your post, like I just smile, and I don't know how to thank you enough for that, but keep doing it.
Thank you. It's mutual. I always tell people that I am inspired by them, and likewise, the interactions help everything keep going. So the smile, the positive attitude and everything, it's because of the community around me.
It's amazing. So the icebreaker that we ask everybody is pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Oh, 100% yes.
Okay, well, this was a fun conversation.
Right? Thanks for coming. Have a good day.
All right, so here's my follow-up to that. Is it just pineapple, or do you have to have pepperoni, jalapeno, ham, or can you do straight pineapple on pizza?
I don't know that I've ever done just pineapple, but we get Hawaiian pretty regularly, which is, I think, just traditionally ham and pineapple. We usually add bacon to it. Every once in a while, we'll do like jalapenos or something, but usually it's ham, pineapple, bacon. So.
This is my arm wrestling answer when people tell me they like pineapple on pizza. I'm like, no, you like the pineapple with all these other things. Until you do pineapple on pizza by itself, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, that's a point of view to take.
Here's another one that has come up recently, and I think this is something I could get into. I haven't done it yet. Dill pickles. Have you heard of dill pickles on pizza?
I think so, and we might have had it once.
Okay.
I don't know if what is it? Mod. We have mod, the make your own pizza type of thing. And my son gets broccoli and corn on it every once in a while, and he loves pickles. I'll eat pickles. I don't mind them, but I don't seek them out like he does. And I think he got pickles on there once. I don't know, but I've seen it. And I'll try it. I mean, I tried that ground beef banana combination. And yeah.
That was a wild video. You got to scroll back, people. Go to Ivan's. It's Simply Thick. Go to his Instagram account. Scroll back. It was ground beef, bananas, but not plátanos, but like regular bananas, right?
Regular banana, right? And cinnamon, I think. Yeah, it wasn't bad. I think it was really just the mental thing of
Yeah.
thinking about what you're eating, and yeah.
If it was plátanos, I bet you would think otherwise. You'd have been like, "Oh, this is like
Oh
something I
yeah,
would eat normally."
right.
All right, so to a more serious question. This is a question I just started asking people because we've been asking it on other shows, and I think it's really powerful for us to get to know you and who you are. So the question simply is, who is Ivan Casillas?
That's a good question. I'm a lot of different things. I'm um, runner, father, husband, uh, analyst, friend. Um, I don't know that there's a single thing there. Yeah, it's a lot of different things. Son, brother, um, cousin,
I think
everything.
the reason why I love this question so much is not so much the order of the multitude of things that people list, but the very first thing that people list. And oftentimes, I think it's recency bias. So, like if you were just finished running or you just talked about running, I could see runner coming in first, right? But if you had just were doing homework with your son or you went grocery shopping with the family or something, I could see father. Like I think it's just recency bias of where
Right.
people bring that first one in. But it's always fascinating to me to hear somebody say who they are in whatever order. So I'm gonna start with runner. Um, why is that a word that you associate with yourself? Because look, you're a runner. We see it up there. But is that a word you would have seen yourself associated with a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Like, how are you defining yourself when it comes to the word runner these days?
I think maybe as recently as a year ago I would have, but not much before.
What changed?
And it's something that I've thought about, even with my page. When I first really started it, um, it was sort of like a weight loss, workout, nutrition type of page, and then now it's pretty much solely running, and just random shenanigans throughout the day. But definitely, I think have realized that like there's a lot that goes into being a runner that isn't just running, that sort of resonates with being a runner, and just the community in general. So yeah. I said 3 years ago I would have said, yeah, no, sure, I run, but I'm not a runner. As opposed to now, I definitely consider myself a runner.
But what do you think changed to make that? What happened a year ago that you said, "Yeah, I'm a runner"? What was the differentiator between the two?
Really looking at running as my primary sport, if you want to call it that. For example, my son, we were just having a conversation recently, and he does soccer, he does basketball, he does cross country. He's done baseball before, but like soccer is his main sport, and then he'll do everything else sort of around it, and all of his other activities are centered or structured around his soccer. So I think for me, it's running, and I'm usually running, but if I'm not running, I'm doing something running related, whether it's um, cheering at an event or doing some sort of ambassadorship, going to one of those events, something like that. And I think within the last year, definitely the last 2 years, I feel like I've been a lot more involved in the community and engaging with the running community as a whole.
I think if I just asked you a simple question like, what do you get out of running? The answer is, I clearly would be fitness and physical health from it. But are there other pieces of running that you could not have guessed you would get out of it a year or two ago?
Absolutely. The community aspect of it. Um, we every month we call ourselves the Hooters Squad. A bunch of us go to Hooters like an hour and a half away, first Tuesday of every month, because it's all you can eat wings. So we know when it is. We go, we hang out, we have dinner, and my brother joined us, and we were talking about different things. And he said, something about there's a couple of us that have ran marathons, and he said, um, there's certain things that you guys wouldn't understand about like work that I do because I do this type of work, and there's certain things about a marathon that I wouldn't understand that you guys do because you guys are marathoners and runners. And I think the community, the running community, and certain little things you can't explain a runner's high to somebody. I mean, you can, but until you feel it, you really
Yeah.
can't. You're like, that's what that is. You can't explain your first marathon to somebody unless they've ran a marathon, and towing that start line and then crossing that finish line, and everything in between. So it's having that community that even if you haven't haven't ran a marathon, there's still little pieces of it that you can relate, that aren't there otherwise.
The other thing you can't really explain to a non-runner is what bonking is like, because it happened to me. I just bonked on Sunday. I got to mile 9. I was running like 14 miles. I got to mile 9, and like everything it was awful, Ivan. Like it was, and now I'm like pleading with myself. If you can run 30 seconds, that's 30 seconds closer to the end of this run. Like just trying to manipulate my own self to get to the end of the run. So I think, in both directions, that the happiness of the runner's high and just the negative aspects of the bonk, it's unless you've gone through it, it's hard to explain for sure.
And unless you've had enough miles or runs under you too, I don't know that it's necessarily bonking, and somebody needs to come up with a technical name for this, but that run that you can't run a mile, and unless you've done this before. There's been times, I've now ran 4 marathons, and every once in a while I'll go out there for a run, and that mile, it just, I can't run it. I'm like, luckily I know, I've had literally thousands of miles under me, that I know that how it goes, and it sucks and you deal with it, whatever, but then tomorrow you lace up and you have the best run of your life. But until you've gone through it, you can't explain it to somebody. Sort of like honking.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I will also tell us a quick story. Um, I was racing the bike leg of a relay of a half Ironman at Indian Wells over in the Palm Springs area. And I got to like mile 52 of the bike, and I was riding well. And all of a sudden it was like only 4 miles to go. In my head, I'm like, at 20 miles an hour, that's 12 minutes. I don't need to take this last gel. I'll be fine. And it was like the body was like, nah, homeboy, you need those calories. And those last 4 miles took like 20 minutes. It was awful. And, I got in, I did the transition. I handed the chip to the runner, and I sat there and I was like, you're an idiot. Like, you could take that gel. Like, you didn't have to not take that gel, right? But I think it comes from being able to talk to myself like that, comes from the experience. Otherwise, it would have been like, oh, this whole thing is ruined and everything else. So I think we are teaching ourselves lessons all along the way, sometimes without even realizing we're teaching ourselves lessons.
Yeah, 100%. And um, it's so funny that you mentioned that. So one of the CIM ambassadors, or captain, David, one of his tips is take that gel. I think it was model 23 or 24 of CIM, and he said, I know you're sick of tired of gels. You're 2 miles out, or just a couple miles out. Take it. Believe me, take it. When you said that, that's exactly what I thought of.
Oh, you mentioned the experience of your first marathon. Do you have a couple of memories from your first marathon that you can share with us?
Yeah. Besides being terrified for like the first 18 miles, yeah, it's CIM, and CIM's the only marathon that I've done. I've done it 4 times now. And it's a point to point marathon, and it's about a 40-45 minute bus ride, depending on if your bus driver gets lost or not. And I remember sitting there on the bus thinking to myself, this is a long bus ride. Like, the bus ride itself is long. Now I've got to run this back. And then you start and you're going, and the miles sort of start ticking away. And I remember feeling really strong, but not expecting the hills. CIM is a net downhill, fastest course in the West, #1 BQ qualifier. We seem to think that net negative means downhill, or flat, and it is not. It's got rolling hills. Now, that's relative, that's subjective, to the hills. Similar to bonking and everything else. Until you've done CIM, you can't explain to someone that it's not downhill without them saying, yeah, sure. And then I remember a couple of first timers that ran it, and one in particular that trained with me, and she said those hills would not stop. The rollers just kept on coming, and I was like, yeah, it's nothing huge. It's an overpass, but it's overpass, half a mile later, overpass, half a mile later, overpass, and it feels like that for like 13 miles. I trained in completely flat course. What I tell people is like me jumping up on the curb on the sidewalk. That was my hill that I trained on. So I was not expecting that at all. And yeah, you're going, and I think sort of the benefit of the first timer, it's sort of a double-edged sword. You're excited, you have all that adrenaline, so that can carry you away. That definitely carried me. My first mile, I was doing like an 8:45 or something like that, when realistically I should have been closer to like 11:30. But it's straight downhill, like literally straight downhill. First time, your adrenaline's going, everybody's passing you, so you get caught up in the emotions. And you also don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
So for me, that can be helpful. For a lot of my races, I don't look at the course now. I'll look at the technical piece of it, of how many aid stations are they intending to have, so I can sort of plan accordingly. But I don't really try to focus too much on what's ahead, because then that can sort of play with your mind. Well, I still have this amount left and whatnot.
I'm the
So.
same way, dude. Like, I don't want to know exactly what's coming up, because then my mind will do the exact opposite, right? If it's a downhill, I'll be like, hold back a lot, instead of just going with the flow. Or if it's an uphill, my mind will automatically be like, oh, you can start hiking now, and walking the hills when it might be runnable. And so I'm with you. I don't want to look at what the trail or the course has. I want to meet it at the moment. But absolutely, when are the aid stations? So I know, okay, refill water, grab food, gel, whatever it might be in that moment, for sure. I'm the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the second time when I ran it, I got really bad tendonitis at like 24 think it was like 23 and a half, mile 24. So then by the third time in my mind, I was like, once they started tightening up, I was like, okay, I know exactly what's coming in. That was something that I didn't have the first time because everything was new, right? This is the first time that I ran past, I think I only ran 18 miles my first cycle. So anything over that, it might have been 20, but anything over 20 for sure was new. So
Right.
you don't know, and sometimes not knowing is more beneficial than knowing. And then you cross the finish line, and wow, it's amazing. Again, you can't explain it to somebody.
And I agree with you. Like that feeling of hitting that finish line and crossing the mat, excuse me, like almost always brings tears to my eyes because I know that I've just put in days, weeks, months, maybe even a year of training to get to that point, and to have accomplished it is just an unbelievable feeling, which is why oftentimes I get really upset when I see people like, oh, we should hand out t-shirts for finishers or medals for and I'm like, nah, man, people work really, really hard for that. And they're going to want to have something to look back at and celebrate the accomplishment because running is hard. Like we don't often talk about that on the social pages, right? It's a lot of glamour. I ran 18 miles. I ran 20 miles. I ran a half marathon. It's a lot of glamour on the socials about running, but running is hard. Like some people are 3, 4, 5 a.m. runners. Some people like me are 7, 8 p.m. runners. You have a kid, you have family, you have a job. Like you're trying to balance all this stuff and still get in 1, 2, 3, 4 hours worth of running, depending on what your goals are, right? Like, how do you make it work for yourself? What do you do to make it work for you?
So I am a couple of things. Um, I like to tell people that the real marathon is the training block, and the marathon itself is really just like your victory lap. You've already done the running when you've done
Yeah.
your training block. Um, I'm a big proponent of run in every condition because you never know how a race day is going to be. So, and then also 4 a.m. runs. And there's nothing magical about 4 a.m. People say, well, what, 4 a.m.? And, you don't run faster at 4 a.m. You don't do anything. For me, it's sort of the only time that I know nothing else is going to pop up. If I schedule my run for 5 p.m. Soccer practice can come up. Somebody's running late. I've got to go pick up my son, take him to practice, dinner, whatever. Very few things are happening at 4 a.m. that are going to take away from that. So it's not a 4 a.m. for everybody, but it's what our time works best for you. And it's that for me, it's 4 a.m. Very few things are happening at 4 a.m. So it's tough getting up, 3:45, 3:30, depending on the length of the run, or going to bed at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. so you can get up early. But it's part of the sacrifices of the training block.
Yeah, I think what's super important about this too is that everybody is different, right? Like I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about soccer practice at 5 p.m. So like I don't that's not going to creep in. There are other things that creep in, but one of the things the reason why I want to bring that up is because I think a lot of times when people first get into our sports, whether that's triathlon, cycling, or running or swimming, they think like, oh, I've seen all these other people doing this. This must be the right only way to do it. And the reality is you have to do the thing that is for you. And sometimes that's a 4 a.m. run. And sometimes, like, my wife is sick right now. So instead of running this evening, to your point, like, I'm not going to run this evening because I want to be with her and make sure she's okay. And so instead of a rest day tomorrow, I'll run tomorrow. Like, you move things around. And I think if you do that and you know that your training plan isn't like etched in concrete, then running becomes enjoyable as opposed to being so restrictive on yourself.
Right. So with Corremos Sacramento, we had like a first timer program this last for CIM. And one of the things that Abel, one of our leaders, said that really stuck out to me was, don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. And that really has stuck out to me. And I've heard that before, but it really resonated with that, right? Like, okay, you have 4 miles scheduled for today, but if you're only able to do 3 are going to be better than none.
Right.
So, to your point, you're supposed to run today, but you can't today, and you're going to have to push it to tomorrow. Tomorrow is better than no run at all. And yeah, what works for one person doesn't work for everyone. I think it really is that whole, the sum of the parts are, bigger than everything. So all the little things that stack up into it.
And what's funny is I've been talking about, I'm a big believer in doing doubles, and I haven't put them into this training block yet. So now tomorrow I have a chance to do the double. So I'll get up, I'll run at 6 a.m. and then I'll run again at 6 p.m. instead of like trying to make from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Instead of getting 2 hours in that way, I'll do one at 6 a.m. and one at 6 p.m. and I'll get a double in, and it'll be fine. And nobody will be any wiser. Because here's the other thing I thought about too. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the whole social media game. And part of that is also like a Strava app or any other app that you might be using. Like that kudos is a dopamine hit. And so if you don't post your run on a particular day and you don't get that kudos, it can affect you. And people can say, don't worry about it. It would be great if you could just say, don't worry about it. But there are people and there are athletes out there that I know that's part of their community, because where they live, they don't have people to run with. And so that online community means a lot. And so it helps them with their running, right?
Yeah. And a dopamine hit, and also to a certain degree, accountability. A lot of the messages that I get, people are telling me like, I see your post, like it's so inspirational and things like that. And to me, that makes me want to post more, because I always tell people, like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm not special, like, in that sense, right? And I think we all are special, but at the same time, we have different challenges, but we all have challenges, right? So,
I just lost Ivan. While we're waiting for him to come back on, unless I have him here. Do I have you here? Yeah. Well, waiting for him to come back on. One of the things I want to say, because he was talking about I'm not special, is one of the things that I am often apt to say is when people say to me, you ran 100 miles, that's amazing and everything. I often say to myself, it's not amazing. I just happen to have the opportunity and the privilege to go to a race, pay for the registration fee, and do the run that way. Other people don't have it. It doesn't, to your point, I mean, it doesn't make me special in that regard. That's a privilege I have, and it's something that I enjoy doing, where others have other ways of expressing themselves and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, and I lost you for a second here, so apologies if I missed more than that. But yeah, it's one of those things where, I said, for me, it's definitely a dopamine hit, but it's also that accountability and going back to those 4 a.m. trainings and things like that. When you say, hey Jason, we're doing a run tomorrow at 4, and you're like, yeah, and 3:45 comes around, and I'm like, you know what? Jason's up and he's waiting for me. Gotta go. So I don't think anybody's necessarily, waiting for my next Instagram post to see exactly how fast I ran. But in my mind, I think it's sharing that process and using that to hold myself accountable.
One of the things you brought up, well, two things you brought up, was that accountability component with others. And you also mentioned Corremos Sacramento earlier, which is how you and I managed to get in touch with each other, was through that run group in Dahlia. But I wrote this down on my notebook while we were in the green room before we started the show, and I wrote sounding board. And I think like those three things, Corremos Sacramento, the accountability, and you being a sounding board, because as you're running, you're talking to people, they're expressing things to you, maybe challenges they're going through or successes that they've had. How does that make you feel as sort of that person that when they come and they're running with you, they're expressing, they're opening themselves up to you? What does that mean to you?
It it means a lot. I like to say that I'm a keeper of people's secrets, because when you're sharing that many miles and that much time with somebody, you just kind of tend to open up, and sometimes, like you said, bad day or bad situation, or being worried about, with the first timer program, there's a lot of worries of like, I've never ran this far and whatnot. um, and it's comforting in a way that people look to you and can trust you, to tell you things. It also can be kind of scary. What do I say, and how do I how can I be reassuring without being dismissive? Like one of the things that stuck out to me, when somebody shared some fear about the long run and things like that, and I said, I'm like, the long run is, or the run is going to be what the run is going to be. um, Prepare your fuel, uh, take your supplements, make sure you get the rest. The run isn't going to be better because you spend all night worried about it. It's actually going to be worse, right?
Wow,
And
that's great advice.
it's a little more complex of that. When your friend says, I'm worried, and you say, well, don't worry about it. Oh, okay, well, I'm not worried about it now, right? Like, being dismissive, but it's true, and I know that from experience, right? So I think sharing that experience, I think when people are trusting you and opening up to you, that it's a level of confidence that they're acknowledging in, either telling you something or just talking to you, and vice versa, being able to listen to you. And yeah, one of those things only a runner that's shared 14 miles with somebody else understands. That you start going like, how did we even end up in this conversation?
I think you hit the nail on the head. We had Landon Hildebrand on our Enduring Minds podcast a few months ago, and he said something along those same lines. Like if somebody, has a DNF and they say, "Oh, I'm really bummed about my DNF," don't just dismiss it by saying, "Oh, you'll just get them next time," right? Ask them questions. Like for your example, it would be like, what about the long run worries you? What about the long run is giving you concern? Because and then you can actually help. And it also gives them the comfort that you're actively listening to what they're saying.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all funny and like relative how it all works, right? Going back to like the marathon training block, I remember having those conversations like pretty early on with some of our runners, where I was like, hey, a half marathon is a half marathon, and running it is difficult. Once you get deep into the block and you're over halfway through, a half marathon isn't even your long run. So
Yeah.
like you said, asking that question of what is it that's worrying you about it, and then I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, so I can't give you, or a philosopher, I can't give you some super deep answer, but sometimes just saying, yeah, I've been there myself, and this is what works for me, and maybe it works for you, or at least you can take a piece of it and go from there.
You mentioned something about how a half marathon is no longer your long run. It immediately made me think about perspective and how our perspectives change as we do these things more and more and more. And I had a friend one time ask me if I was registering for a 50 miler, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to register for it. I'll get around to it." And she said to me, "Isn't it wild to think that you're like this whimsy about registering for 50 miler? Like you're like, yeah, I'll register for it." And, I had been running hundreds and training for hundreds. So like a 50 miler was like, it's a huge deal. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
But in my
right.
in my mind, I was like, I'm physically ready for this. I can do it. But because of perspective change. So like if you're running 14, 16, 18, 20 miles in a marathon training block, and there's a half marathon race that you want to do as like a tune-up race in a sense, you don't you don't get worried about it, right? Like you're like, okay, this is a 13-mile run. Like isn't it crazy how our perspective changes over time?
Yeah, it is. So my brother's not a runner, but he did a 5K race with me. We had a really fun weekend. It was sort of going back to like what initially starting. It was one of the Giants race series races that was in Arizona. My first race was the Giant race in Sacramento, and the Arizona was the only one that I had never done. So a couple of years ago, my brother and I flew out for the weekend, did a 5K. He experienced his first gel in the morning, and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you taking this?" Um, and I was telling him, one, to me, I think racing a 5K is tougher than running a marathon. Because
100%.
you're on from the get go, and what I told him, I was like, when you're doing a marathon, you're running a 5K the day before as a shakeout, like but the other thing with my son and I, with our family time trial, is I really try to instill in him that like we have our competition, we're racing each other and celebrating our victories, but like everybody else out there is racing their own race, so they their wins are just as important and need to be celebrated as much as ours. But it is so funny how like relative it is, and um, after a while, like you said, I know for me, starting in June, I pretty much have at least a marathon, or sorry, at least a half marathon leading up to CIM. Because that's what helps keep me accountable. If I have at least a half, then I've got a long run at least once a month.
Yep. It's amazing. By the way, I don't know if you know this about yourself based on the words that you're saying, but talking to your brother and talking to your son and being a leader and being an ambassador for CIM as well, for those of us on the outside, this is me telling you this. It is so awesome to watch because your actions show that you are not gatekeeping this sport and you're allowing people to enter the sport with who they are, what they're capable of doing, however they're capable of doing it, whenever they are capable of doing it. And I'm not sure if you know that about yourself, if you think about it, but as an outsider looking in, I want to compliment you on that because oftentimes people will get so inside of running where that it's like, well, if you're not qualifying for Boston, or if you're not doing the World Marathon Majors, or if you're not doing the Grand Slam of hundreds, it's not really running. And everything that you've said, we've been talking for 30 minutes now. Everything you have said has been putting another seat at the table as opposed to taking it away. Do you realize like you do that?
I don't know that I realize that I do that, but I think I definitely don't want to gatekeep. And I am big on practice what you preach, and um, leading by example. One of the things that I always tell people with kids is kids will do what they see you do, not what you tell them to do. So, um, it's one of those things that if I like I said before, if I can do it, anybody can do it, and let's figure out how we can get you to do it if that's something that you want to do. So I appreciate that. I'm glad that that's the way that I come across, because that is what I like to do, and um, yeah, I appreciate it.
But I mean, look, man, like I see your posts when you get with your run groups and they're all people of all shapes, sizes, and colors. And that's the way it should be, right? We should be celebrating and running with people from all backgrounds, all cultures, all genders, all gender identities, all paces, and bringing more and more people into this. Because here's how I look at it. I know the benefits that I've gotten from running, and I would be an asshole if I kept them to myself. It's just like I want others to experience the highs and the lows, because the lows teach us just as much as the highs do. And so if I can share running with anybody, I want them to experience that, because then they can take it into the world outside of running. They might become a better parent, a better employee. They might start a new business. Like there is so many repercussions that running has. And again, I would be really greedy if I kept that to myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's a lot. You know, I think I've heard it mostly for like going to the gym and I guess weightlifting or strength training, where people say, you know, you go and you feel out of place, and you know, oh my God, everybody in the gym is looking at me, and people are like, nobody at the gym is looking at you, right? Like nobody cares in that sense. And I think in that aspect, the running can be the same, right? Sometimes you show up and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be the slowest person and whatnot. And it's like, nobody is judging you. Nobody, you know, I'm going to try to pressure you into doing a marathon because I think everybody should. But nobody is going to say like, oh my God, you ran a, you know, insert time here mile.
Right.
Why did you come out? And I think part of that for me is I think we're trying to make running more inclusive, which we should, and I welcome it. But I think, you know, I like to call myself a slow runner. Um, if if us slow runners want to be accepted, then we also need to show up. We can't wait until it changes. We sort of need to show up and be part of these races and be there. And I think that's how you start making that change, right? Being that change that you want to see made by making a presence and being part of the community.
Talk to me a little bit about becoming an ambassador for CIM. Like, what did it mean to you? How did you help others while you were, talking about this race that you've done 4 years in a row?
Yeah. Um, it was surreal. CIM is really special to me, and there's a million different reasons why. But it's my hometown. It's my community, right? I'm seeing all these people, and the more and more that I'm out there in the community, the more people that I'm seeing out there. Um, and being an ambassador sort of gave me like an unofficial, like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. You know, you can tell somebody, and you know, whether I was an ambassador or not, I still had ran it 3 times. But people sort of trusted a little bit more, and also it allowed me to connect with people that I probably wouldn't have before. In yeah, in exposing me to a community. There's a lot of runners out there that did get a BQ, that were like first time marathoners and first time CIMers. And I remember meeting them and saying, you know, I can't give you the training regimen that you need, right? If you're trying to go for a BQ for your first marathon. But I can at least get you in contact with somebody that can, or you're working with so and so. Yeah, you're in good hands. That's who I would go to for
Right.
advice. So it gives you that sort of authority, maybe. I don't know what the right word for it is, but and it was really amazing. it was a little bittersweet. It was pretty much exactly 2 months after my dad's passing, and the way that it was set up this year, and we had a run clubhouse, was very community driven, which was a big part of my dad and his being. So in that sense, it was bittersweet that he couldn't be there to see that, and see me be part of that.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I feel you in that. I've shared with you that my dad passed. I was 23 years old, so I'm 52, so I've lived 29 years without my dad. I've had more time without my dad than I have with my dad. But the connection that you just mentioned is something I just experienced with the Super Bowl halftime show. We're Puerto Rican, and here's Puerto Rico on full display for 13 minutes at one of the biggest events. And I was crying from the get-go. And it's not just the symbolism that was there, but it was the fact that my father couldn't see it either. And my mother passed away about a year ago as well. And so I fully understand that connection of like, I really wish that my dad could see this moment. And I think as time goes by for you, that moment will become even more special. And the smile will be even bigger because you will know that he did see it, he was proud of it, and it was something that you were also able to help others in accomplishing their goals too. You know, like I think as time goes by, that moment will be even bigger and more proud for you than you even realize right now.
Yeah, it was. It's one of those things of so many things leading up to CIM, and even just a training block, right? But then running past the hospital where he was discharged from, 3 days before he passed, and then the clubhouse, and even after his mass, and when we had a lot of his friends and coworkers and my aunt and family members and friends come by, I remember sitting in the backyard and I had played soccer. My dad's company had a soccer team 20 years ago. And I had played soccer with a lot of these guys. So they knew me a little bit more intimately and closely than my brothers. And they called me over like, hey, come over, like let's chat. And we're talking about some of those soccer games and these other stories. And I remember sitting there and just thinking to myself, like, my dad would have loved this. Like he would have loved all of these people here. And it's, ironic that we're here because of him, because that was his thing. He loved the big family get-togethers, and the big sense of community. So there's a lot of things in that marathon block that reminded me of him.
Yeah, I feel you, dude. I want to ask you this because you've run that race 4 times. Do you have races that you're like, I would love to do this one day?
New York. So
New York?
I did enter the lottery. Slim to none chance. I think it's like 3% acceptance rate. New York is my next one. In the perfect world, I'd love to get a BQ time. I think I want a BQ time more than I actually want to run Boston. I don't if I never ran Boston, I'd be okay with it, but I'd like to get a BQ time. But New York is my next big one. Otherwise, the Ciudad Mexico Marathon, and then the other one that I'm signed up for is a half that's from San Diego to Tijuana, binational in October.
Oh, the binational, yeah.
Yeah. So I was I'd signed up last year, and it was going to be, I think, October 24th, which was the Sunday, like 2 days after my dad's service, and I was just like,
Yeah.
Part of me wanted to run it because I know he would have said, "Go run it. Don't worry about it." But I mean, we had family here, and it didn't feel right.
There's a really good chance that I will be at New York City cheering, not racing. So if you get in and you hear my voice as you're running past me, Just know it'll be as loud as it could possibly be because I've never run New York City Marathon either, even though I was born and raised there. I didn't get into running until 2007, and I left New York 2008. So I didn't get a chance to race it, but it is definitely one of those races that just looks super iconic, and everything that it holds looks just absolutely phenomenal. So I'm pulling for you. 3% is greater than 0%. So I hope the lottery ball gets pulled for you, brother.
Thank you. Now you're doing Oakland, right?
Yeah. So we're actually doing so. I've been a trail runner for the last decade plus. I did start on the road, but this year we launched the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse Run Club Tour, and we're going to end up running 3 marathons this year. The first one is in Oakland at the end of March, and I am super excited. We just had a panel discussion with the David Monaco, who puts on the event, with Run Local, and then Coach Bertrand Newson, who is a local coach up in the Oakland area. And dude, I've never been to Oakland, but just them talking about it made me fall in love with the city. Like, I cannot wait to get there and race.
Well, and so I think we'll flip flop because there's a good possibility that I'm going to go cheer Oakland. So I will see you there. So if you hear somebody, you're like, because that's happened before. I have a friend now that her husband was running a race, and probably knew about me but didn't know me. And he's finishing, so I'm cheering for him, and then she reached out and was like, "Hey, were you cheering for my husband?" I was like, "Oh yeah, we saw him finish." And he's like, "Yeah, he's like, some guy yelled my name, but like he must have known who, like it sounded like it was." I was like, "Oh yeah, it was me."
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll keep you in the loop, but we're looking to set up like either a shakeout run or a coffee and conversation. Maybe do something with Too Legit Fitness, which is Coach B's organization up there. And so I'll keep you in the loop for when we're going there. But we're also going to race Pittsburgh this year, and we're also going to be at the San Francisco Marathon as well. We're going to race the San Francisco Marathon.
Yeah. And I'm doing San Francisco Marathon half. So
awesome.
Yeah, 2 opportunities.
Yeah. So there's a good chance we've got 3 opportunities then: Oakland, San Francisco, and New York. We're going to make them all happen.
Right.
Well, look, I'm running up on the hour here, and I always love to close out with we call them food questions, like, but take your time in answering. You don't have to worry about giving me quick answers.
Okay.
So here we go.
Yes.
And dill pickles on pizza, yes. Are Peeps a real candy, or are they just dust balls covered in glitter?
Why don't you ask me the meaning of life? That's a less deep question. Sure, yeah, they're a real candy.
Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it just earwax covered in sugar?
Candy corn is very much a real candy. I like candy corn, and I actually just found out that my grandma is a huge fan of candy corn. November, it was right after Halloween. My mom was like, "Oh, I want to get some candy corn." I'm like, "What do you need candy corn for?" She's like, "Oh, your grandma likes it," so she took it to Mexico because apparently there's no candy corn there. I'm like, lady wants candy corn, we will get her candy corn. She's 89. We'll get her whatever she wants.
It's amazing. We'll stick with abuela for a minute. So in every household, there's an aunt or a grandmother that has a bowl of candy, and there's either butterscotch, there's the peppermint swirl, or is that strawberry one that's in the strawberry package that has the strawberry.
Nobody knows where it comes from. It just shows up.
Which one are you taking out of the bowl?
The butterscotch.
It's so Werther's Originals is just the champion.
Yeah.
It's so good. Favorite flavor of ice cream is
Cherry Garcia. Is that the flavor of it? Whatever cherry. I love anything cherry, so I think it's like cherry and chocolate. Whatever.
So do you like Black Forest cake then?
I think so.
Because it's cherry chocolate.
Yeah.
Favorite non-chocolate candy is?
Ooh, that's a good one. Probably the sour gummy worms,
Those are
only
good.
because I use those for running. So every year at Costco, we get the huge bag, and they come in those little individual packets. So I
Yep.
just pull all of those out and throw them in a Ziploc bag, and those are like the perfect, in between a gel, so kind of break it up, and
Yep.
they're prepackaged and whatnot. So probably those.
I'm surprised. A lot of runners these days are using nerd clusters.
I have found the shareable size of nerd clusters from Sam's, but a lot of those are just kind of like a means to an end.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing. But yeah, I don't know that those are my favorite. Chocolate, immediately I thought of like chocolate cherries. Those what are they? The cordial Queen's Aunt,
Yes.
Queen Aunt,
Yes.
that everybody seems to hate. People give me those for Christmas, and I'm ecstatic. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But it's chocolate, so I'm like, I don't know what else.
Well, I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite chocolate candy? Is it the cordial with the cherry center?
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Licorice. Thumbs up or thumbs down on licorice?
Medium. I'll eat it, but I don't seek it out.
Both black and red or just red?
I'll, that's a good question. I don't know that I would eat a black, so I guess thumbs down in that sense.
Yeah. I can't, I'm not a black licorice person. I just that anise flavor is just out on me. I can't stomach it. Favorite recovery meal is?
Oh, I don't know that I have an exact favorite. Chilaquiles is probably what I would have all the time if I could. So I guess, yeah, maybe that is my favorite. Um, usually my go-to tends to be cup noodles with chicken broth. But it's more of a time thing. I'm running in, showering, and then we got to get out the door to soccer, so I can make that in 2 minutes and 15 seconds now that the cup is microwavable.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, definitely chilaquiles. So it's carbs and it's great.
Chocolate chip cookie or oatmeal raisin?
Oatmeal raisin is the reason why I have trust issues. So chocolate chip all the way.
Favorite type of cake is?
Oh gosh. Chocolate. We had a really good one for my birthday. It was like chocolate with like a raspberry filling.
Ooh.
Yeah. I also just love any cake in all forms. So all cakes.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. If it's cake, I'm eating it.
Exactly.
Do you have a favorite pie?
Ooh, cherry. Cherry. I also probably like 20 years ago came across this recipe for pake, which is a pie cake mix. So it's essentially a pie, you got Marie Callender's or whatever brand of pre-made pie already. And it's cranberries, sugar, cinnamon. Um, you put that in the pie crust, and then you make a cake batter, sugar, flour, and butter, and put that on top. So it really is a pie with a cake kind of crust. And I make that. I've made it a couple of years now, and I finally made my best friend one. You know, she always complained that I would make it for everybody else except for her. So we were down in Santa Rosa, which is about an hour and a half from here, in Thanksgiving at my brother's house, and for whatever reason, I guess there's a shortage. Nobody had cranberries up here in our area, and I went
Oh,
to
wow.
the store. And luckily, they had them there, and I'm like, hour and a half, but I got the cranberries so I can make her cake.
Last one for you. A tray of brownies has come out of the oven. It sat on the counter long enough to cool down, just enough that you can cut it without screwing it up. Are you going corner piece, edge piece, or center ooey gooey piece?
Corner.
Why?
Same way as lasagna. Just the I guess both, you get both in the corner. You
Yes.
get the crustiness, the whatever whatever you want to call it, and then you also get the soft middle. So it's the best of both worlds.
And I'm so glad you said lasagna too, because give me the corner piece on the lasagna. I want to be able to like bite that crunchy noodle at the top too.
Exactly.
Ivan, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate the love that you share with running and the smiles. It means the world to me, and I know it means the world to a lot of people. So just keep doing you, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on it. And like I said, it's reciprocal. It's because of you and your community and allowing us to be part of it that makes it easier for us to do everything as well. So thank you as well.
I appreciate it. I'll see you on the internets.
All right. See you later.
If you stuck out the show with Ivan and I, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Time is the greatest gift that we can give to each other, and you gave me the gift of your time. Make sure you come back next week when I will be chatting with Brian Pacente, Coach Brian Pacente. He is an ultra runner, a trail coach. He's a great guy. We've had him on before. He has written for us, just a tremendously great person. So make sure you come back next week. And before you come back next week, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review to the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform, as well as on YouTube. And I'll see you around. Have a great one, everybody.